Welcome back to the Aliens and Angels podcast. I'm very happy to bring on our very special guest, Chris Mathieu. Chris Mathieu is host and creator of the Forbidden Knowledge News and the Forbidden Knowledge Network. He graduated Full Sail University with a degree in digital media and later was an editor at his local TV station for 2 years. In 2016, he started a Facebook page, Forbidden Knowledge News, as a blog to share the information he was learning during his awakening. As the blog became more popular, Chris started a YouTube channel to bring his favorite researchers, authors, scientists, and experiencers on to share their knowledge and insights. This eventually became a talk show and podcast which featured some of the most brilliant and extraordinary people on the planet and has gained an amazing global audience. The Forbidden Knowledge Network is now a podcast network that features creators, researchers, authors, and regular people just like himself that want to bring knowledge, truth, and a greater understanding to every person incarnated at this critical time in human history. All of the links are below in the description box. And today we're going to start with Chris's paranormal adventure. And then we get into this exciting documentary that he is now working on. Chris, welcome to the show.
Karen, hey, thank you so much for having me back on. Always a wonderful conversation. Always great catching up. It's been a little while.
Yeah, it has. It has. Now, you've been really, really busy, and we want to hear definitely about how freaky it's Louisiana where you were, right?
Yes,
There's a lot of freaky stuff. We want to hear all about it. But first, I was wondering if you would just briefly tell the folks a little bit about your paranormal experience.
And, sure, of course. Yeah, my experience, and I've actually had some updated experiences since the last time we spoke, so I can tell you a little bit about some of those. I don't believe I've talked about those experiences on your show yet, but just to give a synopsis of everything, this happened about 3 years ago now was my first experience, and I was doing Forbidden Knowledge News, but it was just a hobby. It was in no way a career. Forbidden Knowledge Network didn't exist yet. It was just Forbidden Knowledge News. We're on YouTube, and we had just recently become a podcast, and we were starting to gain traction. We're becoming more and more recognizable as a brand, but we still really weren't. I was not making any revenue, especially not anything that I could survive off of. And I had a corporate day job that I was using to buffer the revenue, and that was my main source of revenue. And it was a pretty good living working at this corporate entity, but I hated it. I was miserable. I was depressed, and I wanted to do Forbidden Knowledge News full time as a career. I wanted to take it to the next level. I just didn't know how. I didn't know what to do, and I felt kind of trapped. And I was in South Louisiana at the time. I was living there, and I did not like the environment there. The energy didn't agree with me. I lived most of my life there. I was born and raised in South Louisiana. I moved to Florida for a few years, but the energy there wasn't too much better. Within a few years, moved back to Louisiana, and that's where I stayed until I actually decided to leave and come to Colorado based on these profound experiences that I had. And in a nutshell, it started with meditation. I was going through a bad situation with a relationship in my life. I had to get a restraining order against an ex-girlfriend, and it was a terrible time. And I needed to do something to get myself into a better mental state. The only thing I could think of was meditation. That was my last step of kind of like a rock bottom for me, of not knowing where to go next, knowing that I didn't want to get stuck in Louisiana forever at this career that I hated, and that I knew there was something to Forbidden Knowledge News and everything I was doing. I just didn't know how to take it to the next level. Well, first meditation, I had been trying to meditate for a while, couldn't get past a certain state. My mind was too busy, or at least that's what I told myself. And there was a lot of things preventing me from really getting into deep meditative states, but that night I did. Before I tried to meditate, I saw what I thought was a UFO in the sky. It was these orange flames that kind of flickered in and out of existence. Filed it in the interesting file, didn't really think too much about it. That night had an incredible meditative experience where I made contact. And what I made contact with, my understanding has shifted since the time that I originally had it. As of now, I believe that I was speaking with what I understand as my spirit guides, higher self, some sort of ancestor, some sort of entity that has been with me since my incarnation, that decided to make itself known at that moment in that meditation. And it was about 2 or 3 hour psychic communication between me and this ultra loving entity that started to give me information about myself, my life, what I should do if I wanted to do all these things that my heart desired and get into a better place in my life, steps I could take, things I could do, heal some childhood trauma, get rid of this, this roadblock that's in your way, work on these mental and emotional issues that are holding you back, all these things in my life that I was really just afraid to look at or didn't even think about or just didn't want to look at. This entity initiated that I should do that if I wanted to get out of the situation I'm in. So it was amazing conversation. The communication was instantaneous psychic communication. People always ask, well, how do you know it's just not you talking to yourself, like an aspect of your own consciousness? I don't know. Maybe it was an aspect of my own consciousness, but this aspect knew things about myself that I didn't know. And it brought things to my attention that were locked deep in my subconscious. And it even brought things to my attention that I didn't know I knew. So in my belief, my personal belief, this was somehow an intelligence that was part of myself, but also an external intelligence, an external consciousness that had access to information that I didn't. And after that experience, that's what really changed everything in my life. One of the main messages during that first experience was to quit my job. Just quit, start doing forbidden knowledge dues. No instructions further, just quit. And I was terrified at that notion. I was like, no, I'm making good money here. I can't just quit. Well, that experience eventually led to 2 other really profound experiences that shifted me to quit my job and leave Louisiana and go someplace where I would actually thrive, where I'm at now in Colorado. And the second experience was probably one of the most profound. And it was 2 days later. I wanted to recreate the experience because I had doubts about everything that was happening. I was talking to people like yourself, Karen, to try and understand what was happening and what I was making contact with and why this was happening. The second experience, I got this kind of intuitive feeling to meditate in water. So I went in my tub, really reached this deep meditative state very quickly. And this time I was reliving a childhood trauma. My meditative state brought me back to a childhood trauma that I needed to relive. I needed to heal this before I could move on in my life. It was a very traumatic experience. I come out of that memory and my spirit guide is there again. I could feel its loving presence. It's talking to me. It's guiding me. It's telling me some new things that I should be working on. And during this experience, it was very profound that I actually had visuals with this experience. The first one, all I saw was like this blue light in my subconscious vision. Nothing really, I couldn't see any entities. But this time when I closed my eyes, and by the way, I didn't say this, but during these experiences, I could open my eyes and walk around and do other things and still be in contact with this entity. Once I'd reached that deep meditative state and made that contact, it was locked in and I was able to steadily communicate, even though I wasn't laying down or in some kind of meditative pose with my eyes closed. I was actually conscious walking around. This time in the tub, I could open my eyes, but I would open my eyes and I would see everything in my bathroom. This time when I closed my eyes, I could see that where I was in my subconscious vision was the only way I could describe it was a ship. There was giant windows. I could see out the windows into what appeared to be space. There were stars out there, and there was multi-levels on this ship. It was very sterile environment, like a gunmetal gray color, multi-layers, different balconies, no life forms around. And I'm kind of just in awe of where I'm at when I close. Every time I close my eyes, it's consistently, I'm seeing the same thing. I'm on the ship. And all of a sudden, these etheric beings start to manifest in front of me. They start to come into my vision. They are like human animal hybrids in little etheric robes, and they're kind of green. And they have like a dog hybrid, a cat hybrid. They had a frog one that was communicating with me, asking me some questions about if I'm accepting of some kind of agreement that I had in this incarnation. And I wish I remembered everything that it said, but I was agreeing to it. It was a very emotional experience. These beings were just sending me amazing feelings of love. Again, further instructions on how I can get myself into the position that I desire in my life, things that are most beneficial to me, the most beneficial timeline and paths that I can take, things that I can do to get me there, all this wonderful downloads and information. And it was those two experiences. And one of the main bits of information, besides quitting my job, one of the instructions that was a possibility for me to try if I wanted to take these beings' advice, is to try psychedelics, because the way it was described to me, that it would facilitate a much easier communication between me and my spirit guides, a much easier doorway to information and communication with other types of entities that would be beneficial for me to learn from. So I was like, yeah, all right, let's do it. I only used psychedelics recreationally, like as a teenager and growing up. I used acid and mushrooms a few times, but I did not ever realize that there was a spiritual purpose to them until, these more recent years. So I ended up moving to Colorado. I ended up learning how to grow my own mushrooms, have psilocybin experiences. And these were the most profound experiences I've had. Not only would I have communication with my spirit guides and further my therapeutic goals with these vision quests that I was taking, and not only would I be able to heal so much trauma, but I got so much information about myself and where I was going and my path, and even information about other things that were happening in the world that aren't necessarily important to tell anybody else, but it's important for me to know about. And I ended up eventually being able to channel through these experiences. I've channeled information for my girlfriend before, for other people in my life, and I believe that the channeling is just coming directly through my spirit guides. But these experiences helped me to be exactly where I am today, to be doing exactly what I'm doing. The whole documentary thing came out of an experience that I had, some information that came through an experience. And that was really everything that, those paranormal, which you would call paranormal experiences, are the ones that really changed everything in my life and set me on a different trajectory. And if you want, I can tell you about it wasn't my final psychedelic experience, because I've had others after this, but the most profound one, and the one that kind of really, it was not a final, but it was another huge stepping stone in my total awakening process, in my total awareness of what we're doing here, what is happening, the dangers of interacting with some of this stuff, and how to heal childhood trauma and the dangers that can be associated with drumming up some of these things and what can be attached to them. So I'll get into that experience. It was with an ex-girlfriend one day at the new place I'm at. she had never had a psilocybin mushroom experience, so I was going to facilitate. She wanted to try it, so we did, and we were just gonna have a nice little session, a nice little vision quest together, and I was going to walk her through her experience. So I thought, well, it ended up that for some reason mushrooms do not affect her. They did not affect her at all, and these were very potent mushrooms. They were very good. I had taken some, and I was feeling the full effects of the amount that I took. Well, time went on, hours went on, and I said, do you want to take more? She said, yeah, I'd love to feel something. So eventually she ended up taking like 5 grams, which is like almost my max. 6 is the max I've ever taken. And she took 5 and she claimed it didn't feel anything. I mean, I honestly couldn't tell as she did. She didn't, she wasn't acting any different. She said she was kind of tired. But she is also a psychic medium. She said she felt more tuned in, and there was like a very strong connection while she was having the experience, but that was about it. Now, I, on the other hand, was having a full-blown experience, and we decide to have a sort of a regression where I go back and heal some childhood trauma. It was a kind of natural thing that we kind of fell into doing. We didn't really plan on doing that. So that's what happened is we went into this type of regression for me, and I was able to locate a childhood trauma. And by the way, something else happened during the experience was pretty profound. She had a connection to the songs that were playing on the radio. Somehow she was able to manipulate it, turn the volume up and down, and change stations. It was very interesting what was happening, and she noticed that was happening too. But that wasn't the big thing that happened that day. There was a lot of energy surrounding all of this. It was a very profound experience. When we located the childhood trauma and she walked me through the experience and I relived it, I felt like, amazing. I felt this amazing weight lifted, but I didn't realize that there was a negative spirit attached to that experience that was with me since I had, I think I was like 5 or 6 when I had that experience. And this was a very nasty type of demonic reptilian type of entity. And I had no idea that by doing this could stir up that entity and make it angry. And what it did was it tried to get a last ditch effort to stay attached to me. And it took over my perception. After we had gone through the whole regression thing, I thought it was great. I thought that we had really, had a breakthrough with that experience. All of a sudden, I'm talking to my ex-girlfriend. We're having a conversation, and what she's saying starts to just shift into this very dark and disturbing conversation. All I remember really is her saying that she came to this planet a long time ago. She found my light and she attached myself to me, and she helped me grow. She helped me learn. She helped me do everything, get me to where I was. And why don't I love her anymore? Why am I trying to get rid of her? And as she was saying all this, she shapeshifted into a massive reptilian, like even grew in size. She was like 7 or 8 foot tall, and it was the most disgusting creature I'd ever seen. And it was terrifying. And it proceeds to like chase me around the house, asking me why I don't love her anymore. And I believe that this reptilian just totally took over my perception. My whole house turned into like a dungeon. There was like mold and stuff on the wall. And I didn't know what to do. I thought, and for a moment there, I thought I died. I was like, I'm dead. And I just went to hell. This is what's happening. I'm dead. I'm in hell. I just have to deal with it. So I didn't know what was going on. The only thing I could think of, whatever popped in my head, was to go get in the shower, run water over yourself, and pray. And that's what I did. I got in the shower, I started running hot water, and I started praying to God, like, God, help me, what's going on? And as soon as I initiated that prayer, this loud rumbling voice came like from inside me and said, no, you're being deceived. And as that happened, I puked up like this black glue stuff all over in the shower. It's very thick, viscous black material. I don't even know. I wish I could have kept it, but of course it went down the drain. I would examine that shit. But I puked it up, and all of a sudden the room turns back to normal. The lights are so bright, and I feel this beautiful, loving presence. And from what I understand, my ex-girlfriend was in the other room meditating, calling upon her archangel Michael and Gabriel and her spirit guides to help, because she knew that there was something that happened. Something took over my perception there, and it was incredible. I puked up that black stuff. I felt incredible. I felt this angelic presence there with me, and it was like a combination of me praying and her calling upon her angels, and it was like an exorcism, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that, after that, I felt amazing. I had felt like I really got down to a very powerful childhood trauma and spirit attachment that was holding me down. And that really opened my eyes to a lot of things, that especially the aspect that we could have things, attached to us that we don't even realize that are affecting our everyday lives, and something that's so nasty, so terrifying, so horrifying could be with us every day, and we don't even realize it. We don't know to the extent that it could be affecting us. So yeah, that was a crazy experience.
Wow. Yeah. So you've had really, really positive experiences and really terrifying experiences.
Well, that's the only terrifying one. That was
one.
it. I mean, everything else has been completely beautiful, wonderful experience. And this one, I think, was the only reason it was terrifying, is because we stirred up that spirit attachment there. And it was because I 100% believe that psychedelics allow our consciousness to access realms that aren't there, allow frequencies that we can't normally perceive, things that are just outside our perception and the spectrum of our vision, and even different, what we consider realms or dimensions. I think that there is a crossover that happens with our consciousness, and we're able to perceive a lot more.
Oh, I agree 100%. I just wanted to say that it sounds like you had a spiritual enema. It had to come out. It's like being, and I'm using this obviously as a metaphor, but it's like sometimes maybe we get spiritually constipated by attachments and things. And then when we realize, and you went through, even though it was a terrifying experience, it actually ended up helping you to be way, way better off. I just want to say a quick something about psychedelics. For the last month, I've been doing what they call the Stamets stack, which is microdosing psilocybin along with vitamin B3 and lion's mane mushrooms as well. And I've had such an amazing experience. Now, this is below the amount where you sense it. Actually, I got some really good mushrooms from someone who I trust, but I don't really know what kind they are. And in the Stamets stack, they recommend 0.01 gram or up to 1 gram as a microdose. So I thought, well, I'll just try the middle. So the first time I did it, I took 0.5 gram, and I got actually a little bit high. I didn't want that. So the next day I cut it way back and cut it back again. I must be the opposite to your ex-girlfriend, where I'm really sensitive to it. But anyway, long story short, what happened is all of weird things, like, how we get repetitive thoughts that are not pleasant, that stress us out, that we just wish we could shut them off. Well, that's gone. So my mental clarity is much better, much less brain fog. So I just want everyone to know, Chris and I are not telling you to go out and do psychedelics. We wouldn't do that. We're not doctors, we're not clinicians, but we're just speaking from our own experiences and how they affect our life. But enough about me. Chris, I'm dying to hear about your documentary, where you went, what you did. How about telling us all about that? Unless there's more you want to say about your paranormal.
No, I just want to agree that I don't suggest anyone do psychedelics. I think that it is not for everyone, and it is to be approached with the highest respect and a great understanding of what you're about to do. And like I said, I really don't think this is forever. I don't think everyone should be having, especially the high dose experiences. I opt for the high dose experiences because I feel like those are the most beneficial for me. For you, it's the microdosing. It's different for every person. And for some people, it's probably none at all. It's probably best they stay away from the stuff. But for me, it's best for me to have those full-blown experiences because they really just rip out every traumatic and experience and things that are holding me back, and they really show it to me in a way that I can't ignore it. And I like getting things done quickly and efficiently, and I guess that's for me a way of doing that. But right on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the documentary, this is something that has been a long time coming. This is something I wanted to do for a while. And I finally got around to making my first trip to do it. It's going to be a docuseries. It's going to be an ongoing thing. I'm going to be covering all your favorite topics that I cover here on Forbidden Knowledge News, from paranormal, ufology, occult, esoteric studies, hidden history, spirituality, all the fun stuff that I cover here. It's going to include so many of my previous guests, some new guests, new experts, researchers, authors. I'll be doing live interviews with people, travel across the United States, hitting places of interest, conspiratorial hotspots, historical hotspots, paranormal places all across the United States. And I made my first trip last month. I went back to my home state of Louisiana, and I thought we'd start out with a little bit of FKN origin story. The first episode's going to be, and by the way, the first episode turned into 2 episodes. It's going to be a 2-parter for this first whole Louisiana thing. There's so much content we got in there. It turned out to be huge. The first one's going to be an interweaving kind of my origin stories and the high strangeness that goes on in Louisiana, some dark history, a little bit of things that most people probably didn't know about Louisiana, and some of the eyewitnesses that have experienced some of this experience, some of the tour guides that I've spoke with in New Orleans about some of the hot spots, the haunts, and some of the plantations that we visit. We visit some Native American mounds. We'll be covering a little bit of history on that. And that's going to be the first episode. It's going to also include a lot of my own experiences, from the one I just told you about to some I wouldn't consider them necessarily paranormal, but I had sleep paralysis experiences growing up, and some of the wild times that we had in New Orleans, and that I had in New Orleans growing up, and a little bit of the dark history surrounding Louisiana and the current dark reality that surrounds a lot of Louisiana, from its poverty to the lack of quality food to the lack of education. It's a very unique place, and it's a very wonderful place too. The people there are amazing, and the area is more supernatural and charged than I could have ever imagined. Some of the stories I've heard and some of the information I learned just last month, I had no idea that this place was so rich in just extreme high strangeness. It's like the Skinwalker Ranch of the South, really. I know they have another place called the Meadow that they're calling that, but this must be a close second, or even the same amount of crazy stuff that's going on. Everything from, of course, like haunted plantations, haunted history, residual spirits, residual energy. We have a huge witchcraft culture, huge, of course, voodoo culture. Voodoo is huge down there. And something else I didn't realize they had tons of was vampire culture. Like, New Orleans is the vampire capital of the world. They have people that have these groups and communities where they believe that they are children of the night, and they actually go as far as to suck each other's blood and have these underground parties, and they have all these vampire clubs. There's this whole culture there that I knew there was a little bit. I knew a little bit about it, but it's a big thing. There's some freaking vampires there. They go as far as like filing their teeth, and from what I hear, there's a really dark side to this that includes human sacrifice and occult rituals and spellcraft, and the possibility that that some of these people may not be 100% human. Many of us have now discovered that the world is not what we thought it was, and global events have left many feeling unsettled and even isolated. Karen Holton offers vital services that may be just what you need as she supports your journey into the weird and wonderful. Karen offers awakening support and ascension consultation to support individuals on their journey. For more details, check out her various vital services. Once you find your way through this process, there are many blessings on the other side. Visit Karen's website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, to get started today. That they may have something that could be considered metaphysical, or they're involved with some kind of dark occult magic or rituals that have affected them in this reality and had some sort of paranormal type of fallout in their life. And it's very interesting. And I've also looked into a little bit of what they call energy vampires there. That's a different type of vampire that supposedly can just siphon your energy by being in your vicinity, and by using certain tones or trigger points or talking about certain things or asking you certain things, they're able to siphon your energy in a way that will leave you highly affected by that. And also they will have absorbed everything from you, including all the bad things. So these people end up being extremely sick and they have all kinds of health problems. So there's so much stuff going on in there. But besides the voodoo and the vampires and the hauntings, it is a cryptid like Disneyland, from what I hear. The swamps are insane. I mean, I've taken camping trips. I've gone hunting. I've gone fishing out in the swamps, and there's always this crazy dark energy there. You always feel like something's watching you. You always feel like there's something around the corner, and apparently there is. Apparently there's lots of somethings all around the corners. The second part of the episode's focused on my friend Scott Pace. I don't know if you've heard any of the episodes I've had with Scott. Scott is just your humble Louisiana citizen. He's a hunter. He likes fishing. He likes his Bible. He goes to church every Sunday. He's a Christian, very open-minded Christian, by the way. But he also has psychic communication with Bigfoot and Dogman, and now he's having experiences with extraterrestrials taking him in the night. So this is this whole second episode. I sat down with Scott for 3.5 hours or more, and I interviewed him about all his experiences. He took me out to some areas. We went out on his boat, and we went on a gunpoint led Bigfoot expedition out in some of the areas that some of this stuff is occurring. Possibly saw some footprints and some broken branches and other things that could indicate these creatures being out there. But Scott's experiences are really what's going to make this just amazing. I will give you kind of a brief synopsis of everything Scott's been dealing with and experiencing. It all started with an encounter with a Bigfoot and a Dogman. He was in a deer stand, which is like this elevated stand that hunters use to hunt deer. And it's either in a tree or built up on stilts, but he was in one of these things, and he was looking through his gun scope, and he saw a giant hairy man covered in black hair with black skin. And he said it was bigger than any man he'd ever seen. And he pans the rifle over to the right, and he sees what he can only describe as a werewolf creature standing on 2 legs, elongated snout. And then he hears something in his mind. He hears these creatures talking to him. He hears a very aggressive, gruff voice in his mind say, "Drop the gun or I'm going to come tear you apart." And then he hears this other voice say, "No, he doesn't have his finger on the trigger." And he's wondering, what is he going to do? So he starts like thinking his thoughts to these creatures. He's like, no, I'm not going to shoot you. I was just looking. I'm not going to do anything. And they said, well, you should get out of here. So he proceeds to get freaked out and leave. And he says that he looks back and he thinks that there are about 4 or 5 of these creatures following him. Maybe a couple of Bigfoot creatures, a couple of dogmen. And before this, I had no idea that Bigfoot and dogmen are like hanging out together, having relations. I don't know what they're doing. So after this experience, everything's just snowballs. He starts to have creatures coming in and out of his house, invisible things, and things moving around. He starts to see eye shine in the night, and he hears these voices in his head talking to him and trying to communicate with him. And he starts to, he starts taking pictures in the woods and getting all these anomalous things. He starts to see what I call the predator shine, where it's like a glimmer. You can see the outline of a person, but it's just a glimmery thing. But that's apparently these creatures cloaking themselves. And it's not only the Bigfoot and the dogman. He's told me about encounters with what he calls little people. And these are creepy things. The way he describes them are insane. He has a Facebook group, and the people in the Facebook group are have encounters with Bigfoot, and some of them have other cryptid encounters. And he's made friends with a native chief, and I always forget if it's Nebraska or North Dakota, one of those. He ends up going visit him because this chief had formed like a relationship with some of these creatures, a psychic relationship. Scott goes out there, and the first night they go out and they're looking for these creatures in the wilderness, and he sees what he sees eye shine across a I don't know, maybe 20, 30, 40 feet away from where he's standing across a clearing. And he sees this strange eye shine. And it's not just one color. He sees eye shine from different creatures, and they're different colors. And not only are they different colors, he said they look like kaleidoscopes. He said they're like spinning. These eyeballs are spinning like kaleidoscopes and changing colors. And they have some high up in the trees. They have some low to the ground. They have some peeking from behind trees. And he can tell that there's something, not just this eye shine. There's like, you can see the outline of a creature that these eyes are attached to. And all he can see is a shadow and like hair, kind of like hair poking out from black hair poking out from the sides of these shadows. So what he describes is little people, these little tiny people, maybe 3, 4, 5 foot high, covered in black hair with black skin, with kaleidoscope spinning eyes from every color, from red to blue to green, all like sending him weird psychic messages and popping out from underground, all over the place. And then he starts seeing eye shine that's a little bit taller, from looks like 8 to 10 foot tall beings. And these looked more like the Bigfoot eye shine, he's saying. So he believes that these creatures were out there with some other Bigfoot creatures. He also had an experience. He spent a few days out here. The next day, they take him to a place where they've seen these things in the daylight. And they saw one that they call, what did they call him? I'm to think of his name in a minute. Stevie. Oh yeah, they call him Stevie Wonder, because apparently he shakes his head around like this whenever he sees somebody coming. He gets excited and he starts dancing and stuff. Well, they see Stevie Wonder and he starts shaking it around, and they have this skinny tree that he grabs onto, and he's like swaying from back and forth on the tree, like dancing, and actually getting excited that somebody's coming to talk to him. And they have this psychic communication, and this creature asks Scott to sing for him, because apparently he likes when humans sing. So he starts singing this Bible hymn to him out loud. And as he's doing this, he says he sees these little people just like dancing out of the ground, like snakes being charmed by a song as he's singing this. And it's a Bigfoot and these 2 little people coming out of the ground. And you can't make this stuff up. This guy is the most straight-laced. He doesn't drink. He doesn't do drugs. He's a family man. He's a hunter from Louisiana. I have interviews with him. Go check it out. he's just your normal dude, and he's having insane experiences. One third or fourth night he's out there, he says a Bigfoot actually tried to reach in the truck and grab their cell phone. He had to slap his hand away and say no, and he was able to snap a quick picture, and you can see the kind of outline of a Bigfoot face and everything like that. Let's see what else. He says that there are things in the swamp that are a reptilian of nature and humanoid, like reptilians. He said that there are these alligator human hybrid creatures that that swim in the swamps. He said there are creatures that can turn into smoke and mist, and they just have, you'll see two eyes shining with smoke and mist, and it'll dissipate and then form a humanoid being. There is all kinds of insanity going on in those swamps. And I was talking to Tony Merkel from the Confessionals. He said that he was interviewing a couple of, I think it was hunters or fishermen out there. And it was after this latest big Hurricane Ida that hit Louisiana. There were some new channels that opened up, and they swear that they were going out there to check it out, and they saw a 12 to 18 or 15 foot tall humanoid peeking around the trees. It wasn't like a hairy Bigfoot. It was just like a normal big, huge giant man that was peeking around the trees. And man, if we got swamp Nephilim down there too, that's just, that's crazy. So yeah, I can't wait to bring some of this stuff to show you guys some of the craziness that actually goes on down there. It's gonna be great, and we got a lot of work to do, but yeah, can't wait for it to come out.
Oh, it sounds so exciting and so interesting. As you were talking, I was thinking it seems like there's a really big party going on with all kinds of beings that some of them we don't even know what they are. And we're rarely invited. And it seems like once we have an interaction, then more interactions follow. So I'm thinking about your friend who initially had his experience with a Bigfoot and a dog man. Well, now the cat's out of the bag. They know that he knows that they know, right? And so he's having more experiences because they kind of trust him. But for other people, they would never even know those things exist. So it just struck me as being like a big party going on, and we are usually not invited, Chris.
Yeah, I know we're not. But to add to what you just said, some of the later experiences he's had, these experiences happened a couple of months ago or up to a couple of weeks ago. He said he was out in the wilderness, and he saw a beam of light shoot down, and it formed a portal in which two humanoid light beings stepped out of and just walked directly in front of him, like they didn't even care he was there, went down a hill and out of his vision. And now he's having astral experiences where it's like dreamlike states where he can remember being awake for one moment, and then everything will be fuzzy, or he'll have missing time, but he'll have memories of like being escorted down an underground tunnel with a gray being and a mantis being accompanied by a Bigfoot, and they'll get the Bigfoot to like open this big metal door for him and things like that. And he said that he believes that these mantis beings are taking him in astral form and teaching him how to fight in some manner, which I find very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so again, just that's what I meant when I said it's a big party. They all know about each other, and they cooperate and they hang out, and I'm sure there's some system in place that we don't know about. But when you think about the history of humans, look at the way we treat each other. Look at the way we treat not us, but some people, how they treat their pets. Look at all the things that are going on this earth that should not be going on. They're just unacceptable behaviors on so many levels. So why would these beings then want to open themselves up? They'll likely end up in a lab being experimented on, or God knows what, or killed. And but I think that it's funny. The Bible says the meek will inherit the earth. I'm wondering if the meek of the world, the merciful and the loving and the kind, would actually have no problem with most of these beings it's the humans we kind of got to watch out for. That's just my opinion.
100%. Yeah, I would agree. Now, one of the more interesting bits of information that I've heard through researching all of this is there's a possible link not only between just a Bigfoot and Dogman relationship, but there could be like a genetic or DNA link, or there could be some other metaphysical bonding between these two beings, because there have been multiple accounts of not only seeing these beings together, but the Bigfoot sort of giving the Dogman orders, or being an alpha, or being in charge of this Bigfoot, I mean, of the Dogman in some way. And Scott said he's had experiences that lead him to believe that the Dogman is like some sort of pet or subservient in some ways to the Bigfoot creatures, which I find really interesting. Now, to take that even further, there have been reports of Bigfoots that look like Dogmen. There's Bigfoots that have like snouts, but there could be either misidentification, or they are a form of lycanthrope. Tony Merkel, who I had on my show, does the confessionals. He's had other individuals had similar experiences that have come to the conclusion and believe that they are lycanthropes. He's had one gentleman that has supposedly had direct experiences in other realms, in these other dimensions with Bigfoot and Dogman, and got information from these creatures, and they told him they are of the same type of thing. Like, they are both shapeshifters that can turn from a humanoid into either a Dogman or a Bigfoot being. And sometimes it can kind of be a mix of both, depending on how they're shape-shifting, what they're doing. I find that very interesting. I'm hearing more and more things to kind of substantiate that there may be some kind of genetic link or relationship to these, but I don't know. I think it's very fascinating to look into, though.
Oh, it really, really is. Sometimes I wonder if all the distractions on the media are to keep us in a state not only of a low vibrational and fear state, where we're not as open to the higher dimensions, but also distracting us from this information that's now coming out. People are now, instead of just running in fear, they're interested and they're curious, and they've got their cameras and they're coming out and they're sharing their stories. It used to be you didn't share those stories because you'd end up in a lunatic or an insane asylum, and God knows what your life would be like. Like, there's enough fear to keep people from talking about these things. Well, now we don't have to be, hopefully don't have to be afraid of that. And we're talking about all this stuff, and it's all coming out. And personally, I find the paranormal realities less fear inspiring than the human goings on. And I myself am not coming from a position of fear based on my own paranormal experiences, which have been nothing but positive. So so great, so great. And I'm just really excited so do you have a name for your docuseries yet? And do you have a target date when you want it to hit the airways?
Well, the name of it's going to be The Forbidden Documentary. That's just the name of the series, but each episode's going to have its own subtitle. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to call this first one. I'm hoping to have the first episode released in June, possibly late June, early July, maybe sooner. Depends on how fast I can get all this editing done. And we're hoping to have it on Amazon and a few other platforms.
Nice. Very, very nice.
Yeah. Looking forward to it, man. It's a lot of work. We've got a lot left to do. And I just want to say, I want to thank everyone that's helped so far. I want to thank everyone that's made donations. Everything is greatly appreciated. You guys have helped so much. We've got a lot more work to do, and we're completely self-funded. All of the funding for this is coming from your donations and my own pocket. And we have a lot left to do. And this is going to be an ongoing thing. This is going to be an ongoing series. And podcasting is not a lucrative career by any means, not unless you're Joe Rogan or something. And I don't have any fancy boner pill sponsors or mattress sponsors. It's all coming from my direct podcast revenue. So anything you guys could help out with, any kind of donation, is so greatly appreciated. If you donate $80 or more, you get a 1-hour one-on-one Q&A session with me, either broadcasted or private, and you get your name in the credits of every episode. So thank you again, guys. We really appreciate this, and we hope to get it done as soon as possible so we can bring you this amazing stuff.
Oh, I agree. Yes, folks, if you only have enough for you, we understand. But if you have anything extra, it would be great to be a part of this amazing documentary series. Now, just some of the stuff we've talked about today is just gonna, are just little teasers to get you interested in what's going to come. Can you imagine a whole series that's devoted just to these individual subjects that we've talked about today? How interesting. So here's your chance to be a part of that. The other thing I want you all to know is below in the links, there's a link to C60 PurplePower, and it'll be on every one of my shows, either the Aliens and Angels podcast or the Quantum Guide show. And you can just take that link, click on that link, and go and get yourself something that's going to have amazing effects on your body, your mind, and your spirituality. And it's a wonderful way because C60 PurplePower is a sponsor of Forbidden Knowledge News and the Forbidden Knowledge Network. And of course, now even the Forbidden documentary. So please do check out the links below and order yourself some C60 PurplePower and have amazing, amazing results. Chris, do you want to say a little bit something about C60?
Oh, C60 is great. I recently got a new sampling of one of their new products, the C60 gummies. These things are so awesome. They taste so good. And they're amazing. I have to keep myself from eating too many a day. In fact, I think I was eating way too many because I went through them way too fast. But they're amazing. C60 has been great. Like, I owe a lot of where I am health-wise to C60. It's helped me lose a ton of weight. It's helped me with my energy, inflammation. I swish with C60 if I have a toothache. My pets use C60. My dogs, my cats, and they are all rocking. My dog and cat are going to live forever. So C60 is amazing.
Yeah, we hope so. Now we have a couple minutes left. Do you want to say something about the network? Do you want to spotlight some of the shows? Obviously, the Quantum Guide show and Aliens and Angels is part of we are a part of your network, but do you want to talk a little bit about some of the other groups and podcasters and stuff, just to let the viewers and the listeners know about it?
Yeah, sure. The Forbidden Knowledge Network, you get it on our website, forbiddenknowledge.news. And all we do is we take these amazing podcasts like yours, Karen, like Aliens and Angels, and like the Quantum Guide show, and we put them up on our website. We feature them, and we also promote them on all our social media platforms. I'm promoting them on Facebook, Instagram, and yes, I finally caved and got a TikTok account because I was tired of everybody saying, you get so many views on TikTok. I don't know. I think there's something weird going on with TikTok, but yes, we are on TikTok now with our clips. So the Forbidden Knowledge Network is a great place if you want to get access to some amazing podcasts like the one you're listening to now. We feature Raised by Giants, Understanding Propaganda, Quantum Guide Show, Aliens and Angels, What the Frick Live. I know I'm forgetting a lot of them. We just got a new one, BG Newscast. They're doing some great work out there. And there's a few others that I'm probably missing if I didn't mention it. Go check them out. They're on our website. You go to the menu bar at the top, click and scroll through any of those wonderful podcasts and get direct access to them. And yeah, that's the Forbidden Knowledge Network.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so Forbidden Knowledge News, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the guests that you've got lined up for the near future so people can come over? And if you haven't, please subscribe to Forbidden Knowledge News and like and share all of their videos. Show them some love because it's just such amazing content.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Let me pull up my calendar and see what we got in the store for you. Tomorrow, we're going to have the wonderful Andy Rouse from the Deep Share podcast. We've got Jeffrey Hahn, Derek Bros, Phil Ward. We've got the Scribe coming back on. Some other big ones. Probably not supposed to say too much about this, but I will be back on Tinfoil Hat on May 3rd. Go check that out. We've got Russell Targ coming back on. We've also got Hibbler coming next month, Graham Phillips, Nick Hinton, Trusika, so many more. So we got some bangers coming up for you as usual.
You sure do. You sure do. So, Chris, in closing, is there anything you want to say to the viewers and the listeners? Your take on, I don't know, anything you want. And also mention again where we can reach you.
Yeah, Karen, thank you so much for having me back on. No, I just want to again thank everyone for listening. The fact that anyone listens to this is extraordinary. The fact that I've had this so much support and this big of an audience is so surreal. And I want to thank everyone who's there every day listening. Thank you, Karen, for everything you've done. Thank you for your show. And this is going to be it's going to be an epic production. I really hope that we're able to keep this going and keep bringing you the not only the podcast, of course, but the Forbidden documentary and all future projects. So yeah, if you enjoy everything that we've been bringing you, and you want to hear further content, you're looking forward to the documentary, keep supporting us, make a donation, and check out the Forbidden Knowledge Network. And you can find us on all podcast platforms, our website, forbiddenknowledge.news. Another way you can support us is signing up on Rockfin. That's where you get our premium content, rockfin.com/FKN plus. We also are doing FKN Live. We're doing live shows 5 days a week on Rumble. So go check us out on Rumble. And we're also on Odyssey. And that's it. So thank you, Karen.
Oh, you're welcome, Chris. Okay, well, I guess that's it for today. And I want to thank everybody for joining us for Aliens and Angels. And thank you so much, Chris, for joining us and for making time in your busy schedule and for sharing your adventures and your personal adventures as well as Louisiana. We appreciate you so much. So until next time, I'm going to say bye-bye and thank you, everybody, for joining us on Aliens and Angels.